What if I told you one of the greatest Sega Saturn RPGs forces you to kill the princess you were sent to save? That another was an epic trilogy but you were only ever sold the first chapter? And that the most legendary Saturn RPG of all? Its source code is lost forever and 2 developers tragically died during its creation. These aren't just games, they're legends filled with secrets, tragedies, and lost history. Today we're uncovering the truth behind 8 of the greatest RPGs to ever grace the Sega Saturn. Panzer Dragoon Saga. Kicking off our list is the undisputed holy grail of the Sega Saturn. Panzer Dragoon Saga, a game whose tragic development and technical ambition perfectly mirror the story of the console itself. Released in April 1998 in North America, right at the tail end of the Saturn's life, Panzer Dragoon Saga was a radical departure for a series known for its arcade-style on-rails shooting. Developed by Sega's internal team Andromeda, this was their attempt to transform their established world into a full-fledged RPG. The journey was anything but easy. Development began way back in March 1995, but the project was so ambitious it had to be put on hold so the team could first complete Panzer Dragoon 2's Y. What followed was a grueling 3-year development cycle that the creators described as a test of endurance. This period was marked by immense stress and even tragedy, with 2 team members passing away during its creation. The game's somber, melancholic tone feels like a direct reflection of this difficult creation process. It's a game about a world in ruins, produced by a development team that was itself disintegrating within a company in decline. When it finally launched, Sega of America, having already shifted focus to the upcoming Dreamcast, gave it an astonishingly small print run of fewer than 20,000 copies. This decision instantly turned it into a collector's item, a legendary masterpiece locked away by time and circumstance, with its original source code famously lost, making a modern port or remaster an immense challenge. So what makes this game so special? It all starts with the technology. Panzer Dragoon Saga delivered a fully 3D world with a 360-degree camera on hardware that was notoriously hostile to 3D game development. The Saturn's architecture, with its dual Hitachi SH2 CPUs and 2 separate video processors, the VDP-1 and VDP-2, was a beast to program for. Unlike the PlayStation, which was built around rendering triangles, the Saturn's VDP-1 rendered quadrilaterals, or quads. Untaming the system to produce a seamless, breathtaking 3D world like Saga's was an act of pure programming genius. This technical mastery enabled one of the most innovative combat systems ever conceived. It was a brilliant fusion of turn-based commands and real-time action. Battles unfold as you circle an enemy, with an active time battle gauge charging up for your actions. The key was the positioning system. The battlefield is divided into 4 quadrants: front, back, and 2 sides. Green zones are safe, while red zones indicate you're in the enemy's line of fire. You are constantly forced to maneuver your dragon to hit enemy weak points while dodging their attacks, making every battle a dynamic, strategic dance. Layered on top of this was the dragon morphing system. At any time, you could shift your dragon's form to prioritize attack, defense, agility, or spirit stats. This wasn't just a cosmetic change, it was a core strategic element that allowed you to adapt to any combat situation on the fly. This feature was so complex that the team initially deemed it impossible to implement until one programmer working independently created a functional prototype, showcasing the team's incredible dedication. Artistically, the game is unparalleled. Its aesthetic, a hauntingly beautiful mix of French artist Mobius, sci-fi epics like Dune, and the post-apocalyptic nature of Ghibli's Nausicaa, creates a world that feels ancient, lonely, and utterly captivating. The decision to use a unique, fictional language for the voice acting, a blend of ancient Greek, Latin, and Russian, only deepens the sense of immersion and authenticity. The game's narrative was a benchmark for the era, telling a mature story of revenge, loss, and love. The relationship between the protagonist, Edge, and Azel, a bioengineered human weapon, was far more nuanced than the typical save the princess trope, exploring themes of humanity and purpose with a depth that was rare in video games at the time. Panzer Dragoon Saga is more than just a game. It's a poignant work of art where the line between the creator's struggle and the desolate beauty of their creation blurred, resulting in one of gaming's most essential experiences. Shining Force 3, the complete trilogy. If Panzer Dragoon Saga is a masterpiece locked away by scarcity, then Shining Force 3 is an epic saga that was literally torn apart, only to be made whole again by the heroic efforts of its own fans. Developed by the legendary Camelot Software Planning, Shining Force 3 was released in Japan as an ambitious trilogy of games between 1997 and 1998. Each of the 3 scenarios was a full-length RPG that told a sprawling story of war and political intrigue from the perspective of a different hero. Synbios, the noble swordsman of the Republic, Medeon, the conflicted prince of the Empire, and Julian, the wandering mercenary caught between them. The grand vision was for players to experience the conflict from all sides before the 3 armies would unite in the final scenario to face the true enemy. However, with the Saturn commercially dead in the water in the West, Sega of America made the fateful decision to only localize and release Scenario 1. They tacked on a hastily rewritten, cliffhanger-free ending and abandoned the rest of the trilogy. For decades, the full story of Shining Force 3 remained a legend for English-speaking players, an unfinished symphony that represented one of the greatest what-ifs in RPG history. What Western audiences missed was not just a story, but a technical and gameplay marvel. Shining Force 3 was a stunning showcase of the Saturn's unique strengths. It seamlessly blended fully 3D polygonal environments and battlefields with gorgeous, high-resolution 2D character sprites. This hybrid approach was a perfect match for the Saturn's architecture. The powerful VDP-2 processor handled the 3D planes, creating dynamic, rotatable battle maps, while the VDP-1, a master of 2D, rendered the crisp, beautifully animated character sprites. The result was a game that possessed the tactical depth of a 3D environment while retaining the character and charm of classic 16-bit. The game would read your save file from the previous scenario, and your actions would have real, tangible consequences in the next. Did you save a specific guard on the docks in Scenario 1? He might show up as a recruitable character in Scenario 2. Did you find a rare item or spare a particular enemy? That choice could ripple through the entire trilogy, altering dialogue, unlocking hidden events, and even changing which characters would join your army. It created a single, cohesive narrative experience where the player felt an unprecedented level of agency in shaping the world. This was complemented by the deep friendship system, where characters who fought together and supported each other would build bonds, granting them powerful stat boosts in battle. This added another layer of strategy, forcing you to think not just about class and position, but about the personal relationships between your soldiers. The story of Shining Force 3 has a third act, one written not by Camelot or Sega, but by the fans themselves. The Shining Force 3 translation project is one of the most legendary achievements in the history of the fan community. Through a multi-year collaborative effort involving dozens of dedicated programmers, hackers, and translators, Scenarios 2 and 3 were finally painstakingly translated into English. They even created a patch to restore the original, unaltered ending to the official Western release of Scenario 1, allowing the entire trilogy to be played as a single seamless story just as the developers intended. In a way, the fan community became the story's third army. They fought against the enemy of corporate neglect and regional lockouts to unite the fractured pieces of this epic and restore the developers' original vision. Thanks to their heroic efforts, Shining Force 3 can now be experienced in its complete form, and it stands as not just the pinnacle of the strategy RPG genre, but as a powerful testament to the passion of a dedicated fanbase. Dragon Force. While its rivals were obsessed with the new frontier of 3D, the Sega Saturn delivered a 2D spectacle that no other console could touch, and no game proved this more than the jaw-dropping epic Dragon Force. Released in 1996, Dragon Force was an early and powerful statement about the Saturn's true identity. Developed by J-Force and Sega, it was a unique blend of grand strategy and real-time battles that was unlike anything else on the market. The premise is simple. You choose one of 8 rulers of the continent of Legendra, and your goal is to conquer the land and unite the other 7 members of the Dragon Force to defeat the evil god Madruk. What made it a technical masterpiece was its signature feature, massive 100 versus 100 troop battles. In an era where 3D graphics were still rudimentary and blocky, seeing 200 individual, beautifully animated chibi sprites waging war on a single screen was absolutely revolutionary. It was a visual feast that the PlayStation, with its architecture built from the ground up for polygons, simply could not replicate with the same scale and fluidity. This incredible feat was possible because Dragon Force was designed to play to the Saturn's greatest strength, its unparalleled 2D processing power. The Saturn's VDP-1 chip was, in essence, a world-class sprite rendering engine, while the PlayStation rendered 2D sprites by treating them as simple, flat polygons. The Saturn had dedicated, specialized hardware for the job. This fundamental architectural difference allowed Dragon Force to push a sheer number of animated objects on screen that was simply unthinkable on competing hardware. It was the ultimate counter-argument to the narrative that the Saturn was the weaker console. It wasn't weaker, it was different, and when developers targeted its unique strengths, the results were spectacular. But Dragon Force was far more than just a tech demo. Beneath the visual spectacle lay a game of surprising strategic depth. The game is split into two main phases, a domestic affairs mode and the battle mode. In the domestic phase, you manage your kingdom, fortify castles, search for items and new generals, and award your loyal commanders to boost their stats and prevent them from defecting. The real-time battles are where the strategy truly shines. There are 10 different troop types, from soldiers and archers to cavalry, mages, and even dragons, each with rock, paper, scissors, style strengths and weaknesses against others. Knowing whether to send your cavalry to flank their archers or hold the line with your soldiers against their beastmen is critical. With over 100 unique generals to recruit, each with their own special moves and spells, the strategic combinations are nearly endless. Dragon Force remains one of the most beloved and unique titles in the Saturn's library, a game with a passionate cult following to this day. A sequel, Dragon Force 2, was released in Japan and has since been fan-translated, but the original remains a singular achievement. It is a powerful reminder that in the 32-bit console war, there was more than one path to creating a next-generation experience. Grandia. While PlayStation owners were celebrating the arrival of Final Fantasy VII, Saturn owners in Japan were experiencing their own revolutionary RPG epic. This was Grandia, a game so ambitious and visually stunning that it cemented developer Game Arts as masters of their craft. Released in Japan in late 1997, Grandia was a direct competitor to Final Fantasy VII, and in many ways it was even more technically impressive. The game was built on a sophisticated engine that blended 3D polygonal environments with large, expressive 2D character sprites. This was a common technique on the Saturn, but Game Arts took it to another level. The world was vibrant and interactive. You could rotate the camera freely, revealing hidden paths and treasures, and the environments felt alive, in a way few RPGs had before. In an interview, the developers stated their goal was to create a living, breathing world, where even a simple barrel could be rolled around, a direct response to the static, non-interactive worlds of other RPGs. The heart of Grandia's innovation was its battle system. It threw out the static, stand-in-a-line combat of its peers for something far more dynamic. Characters and enemies moved around a 3D battlefield in real time, and their actions were governed by the IP gauge, or initiative point gauge, at the bottom of the screen. This bar showed icons for every character and enemy moving from left to right. When an icon reached the command point, you could input an action. When it reached the action point, that move was executed. The genius of this system was that you could interrupt and cancel enemy attacks with well-timed strikes, turning every battle into a strategic race along the timeline. It was a fluid, fast-paced, and deeply tactical system that many modern RPGs are still trying to replicate. The story was a departure from the grim, world-ending plots common at the time. It was a pure, joyful adventure story about a young boy named Justin who dreams of exploring the world beyond the end of the world, a massive wall that encircles the known continents. It's a tale filled with optimism, discovery, and a palpable sense of wonder that is infectious. For years, the definitive version of Grandia was the 1999 PlayStation port, which was the first time the game was officially released in English. The original Saturn version, with its superior lighting, effects, and overall performance, remained a Japan-exclusive treasure, that is until the fan translation community once again stepped in. Translating the Saturn version of Grandia was a monumental task. The team had to reverse engineer the game's file structure, decompress its text and font files, and create new tools to insert the English script from the PlayStation version while accounting for the Saturn's unique architecture. The process involved painstaking analysis of everything from menu text files like itget.bin and shop.bin to the complex control codes that governed character portraits and dialogue boxes. Thanks to their incredible work, the original, technically superior Saturn version is now fully playable in English, preserving Game Art's original vision for a new generation of players. Sakura Wars. Imagine a game that is part tactical RPG, part dating sim, and part visual novel, all wrapped up in a playable anime set in a steampunk 1920s Tokyo. That's Sakura Wars, one of Sega's biggest and most beloved franchises in Japan, and a genre-bending masterpiece that was unlike anything else on the Saturn. Defined by Sega as a dramatic adventure, Sakura Wars, released in 1996, tells the story of the Imperial Combat Review's Flower Division. By day, they are the stars of a popular theater troupe in Tokyo. By night, they are a secret military unit who pilot steam-powered mechs called Cobus to defend the city from demonic forces. You play as Ichiro Ogami, a young naval ensign assigned to lead this all-female squad. The gameplay is split into two distinct modes. The battle mode is a turn-based tactical RPG fought on an isometric grid, where you command your squad of Cobus against waves of demons. It's a solid strategic system reminiscent of games like Shining Force, but the true heart of Sakura Wars lies in its adventure mode. This is where the game's revolutionary lips, or live and interactive picture system, comes into play. During conversations with your squad mates, you'll be presented with dialogue choices that have a strict time limit. Your responses directly affect your relationship with each character. Saying the right thing will build their trust in you, while the wrong choice can lead to a negative reaction. Fail to answer in time, and your silence is taken as a response in itself. This wasn't just for flavor. The relationships you build in the adventure segments have a direct and tangible impact on the battlefield. A character who trusts you will receive significant stat boosts, making their Kobu more powerful in combat. This brilliant system perfectly integrated the game's narrative and gameplay, making your personal interactions just as important as your tactical decisions. The story, presented in an episodic format complete with next episode previews, truly felt like you were playing through a season of an anime. In Japan, Sakura Wars was a cultural phenomenon. It was one of the Saturn's highest selling titles and spawned a massive franchise with sequels, spin-offs, anime series, and merchandise. Yet for over 2 decades, this iconic series remained almost entirely inaccessible to Western audiences. Once again, it was the fan community that bridged the gap. In 2019, a massive collaborative effort finally produced a full English translation for the original Sakura Wars on the Saturn. The project was incredibly complex, requiring custom tools to handle the game's unique file formats and scripting. The team even went on to translate the sequel, Sakura Wars 2, which was released in 2025. Thanks to their dedication, Western players can finally experience this genre-defining classic on its original hardware, uncovering one of the most important and influential games in the Saturn's library. Shining the Holy Ark. Before Camelot delivered their magnum opus with Shining Force 3, they returned to the series' roots with Shining the Holy Ark, a first-person dungeon crawler that served as a crucial bridge between the 16-bit era and the future of the franchise. Released in 1997, Shining the Holy Ark is a spiritual successor to Shining in the Darkness on the Genesis. It features the same first-person perspective for exploring massive, labyrinthine dungeons and engaging in turn-based combat. However, this was no simple rehash. Holy Ark was a bold technological and thematic step forward for the series. Visually, the game was a fascinating hybrid that played perfectly to the Saturn's architectural strengths. Instead of the hand-drawn environments of its predecessor, Holy Ark featured fully 3D rendered dungeons that you could explore tile by tile. The characters and enemies, however, were highly detailed 2D sprites with a pre-rendered look, similar to what games like Donkey Kong Country had popularized. This combination was a clever way to leverage the Saturn's hardware. The VDP-2 processor could handle the 3D backgrounds and environments, while the VDP-1 was free to render the large, crisp sprites without compromise. The result is a game with a unique and impressive aesthetic that still looks great today. The gameplay was also refined. The classic turn-based combat was enhanced with power attacks, special moves that characters could unleash based on their stats, providing timely damage spikes or healing. A new pixie system was also introduced. You could find different types of pixies hidden throughout the dungeons, and they could be used as a powerful first strike at the beginning of a random encounter, adding a new strategic layer to exploration. Shining the Holy Ark also marked a significant tonal shift for the series. Believing that the fans who grew up with the Genesis games had matured, Camelot crafted a story that was significantly more sinister and complex than previous entries. The game follows a mercenary named Arthur who, after a mission goes wrong, finds his fate intertwined with spirits that grant him incredible power. The plot involves political conspiracy, ancient evils, and a darker, more mature narrative. Crucially, Holy Ark serves as a direct prequel to Shining Force 3. Several major characters, including the villainous Bullzone monks and key figures like Julian, make their first appearance here. Playing Holy Ark first provides invaluable context and depth to the events of the Shining Force 3 trilogy, making it an essential piece of the overall saga. Despite some old-school dungeon crawler frustrations like a high encounter rate and massive dungeons, Shining the Holy Ark was a fantastic and important entry in the Shining series. a game that successfully brought the franchise into the 32-bit era with style and substance. Albert Odyssey: Legend of Eldine. In an era obsessed with pushing polygons, Albert Odyssey: Legend of Eldine was a defiant celebration of 2D artistry. It stands as a testament to the idea that masterful sprite work could be just as, if not more, visually impressive than the rudimentary 3D of the time. Originally developed for the Super Nintendo, Albert Odyssey was moved to the Saturn late in its development. While this origin story explains its traditional turn-based JRPG structure, it also explains its incredible visual style. The game is a masterpiece of 2D graphics. The character sprites are large, vibrant, and beautifully animated, with a level of detail that is simply stunning. Even minor shopkeepers have unique animations that play out in menu screens. The battle backgrounds are lush and varied, and the spell effects are colorful and impressive. While it may have its roots in the 16-bit era, the Saturn's superior hardware, particularly its capacity for higher color counts and resolution, elevates the visuals far beyond what the Super Nintendo could have achieved. The game's soundtrack, composed by Naoki Kodaka, is another standout feature. It uses a mix of the Saturn's internal sound chip and live, CD-quality orchestral recordings, resulting in a rich, beautiful score that was a huge leap in quality from the synthesized music of the 16-bit era. The story is a classic JRPG tale following a young boy named Pike who was raised by winged humanoids called Harpies. When his adoptive sisters turn to stone, he sets out on a quest with his talking sword, Cirrus, to find a cure, uncovering a larger plot to revive an ancient evil along the way. The game is divided into two distinct chapters, with the second part telling a new, loosely connected story with the same cast of characters and unconventional but interesting narrative structure. Albert Odyssey's journey to the West is as much a part of its identity as its graphics. It was localized by Working Designs, a publisher famous for bringing niche Japanese RPGs to North America and infamous for their unique approach to translation. Working Designs was known for taking significant liberties with the original Japanese scripts, injecting a heavy dose of pop culture references and their own brand of humor. The localization of Albert Odyssey is a prime example of this philosophy. NPC dialogue is filled with jokes, fourth wall breaks, and anachronistic humor that was a vast departure from the source material. This style was polarizing. Some fans loved the personality and charm it gave the games, while others criticized it for undermining the original tone. Beyond the script, Working Designs often made significant gameplay changes, typically increasing the difficulty of their localized games. They did this with the belief that it would increase the game's value and prevent players from beating it too quickly and returning it. Whether you love or hate their approach, there's no denying that Working Designs played a pivotal role in shaping the Western perception of the Saturn's RPG library, and Albert Odyssey is one of the most prominent examples of their unique and controversial legacy. Magic Knight Rayearth. Our final game is a story of bittersweet irony. It was one of the earliest RPGs developed for the Saturn in Japan, but due to a long and troubled localization process, it became the very last game ever officially released for the console in North America. This is Magic Knight Rayearth, the Saturn swan song in the West, based on the popular manga and anime series by the all-female artist group Clamp. Magic Knight Rayearth is an action RPG that tells the story of three high school girls who are transported from modern-day Tokyo to the magical world of Sephiroth. They are summoned by the land's pillar, Princess Emerald, to become the legendary Magic Knights and save her from an evil high priest. It's a classic isekai story long before the genre became a modern anime staple. The game itself is a charming and beautiful action RPG. It perfectly captures the look and feel of the anime with bright, colorful graphics, super deformed chibi character sprites, and excellent animated cutscenes. The gameplay is a simple but fun Zelda-like adventure, with each of the three girls having unique weapons and magic. This leads to a stunning revelation. The princess didn't summon the Magic Knights to rescue her, she summoned them to kill her. It was her final, desperate wish to be defeated in order to save her people and the land she loved. The game's real story, however, is its journey to the US market. Publisher Working Designs acquired the rights early in the Saturn's life, but the project was plagued with problems. According to reports, the Japanese publisher suffered a hard drive crash that wiped out a significant portion of the game's code, forcing Working Designs to rebuild much of it from scratch. They also faced immense difficulty and expense in licensing the popular Rayearth property. This, combined with Sega of America's increasing focus on 3D games and waning support for the Saturn, led to massive delays. By the time Magic Knight Rayearth was finally ready, it was late 1998. Sega had officially discontinued support for the Saturn in North America 2 months prior. Working Designs, in a final act of dedication to the console and its fans, published the game themselves. With an estimated print run of only 5,000 copies, it instantly became a rare and highly sought-after collector's item, a final, beautiful gem for a dying console. The game itself, while charming, felt dated by 1998 standards. Its simple mechanics were a better fit for the 1995 landscape in which it was originally released in Japan, but its status as the Saturn's final farewell in the West gives it a unique and poignant place in gaming history. It's a beautiful, fun, and ultimately tragic title that serves as a perfect final chapter for the story of the Sega Saturn. From the tragic beauty of Panzer Dragoon Saga to the restored epic of Shining Force 3 and the raw power of Dragon Force, these games tell a larger story. They aren't just great RPGs, they are monuments to creativity under pressure. They are proof that technical limitations and market failure can't stop visionary developers from creating timeless art. The Saturn's RPG library forged the console's true identity. It wasn't a failed 3D machine, it was the last bastion of 2D artistry, a complex canvas for 3D pioneers, and a haven for genre-bending experiments that were too bold for the mainstream. Its legacy is one of defiance. Defiance from developers who mastered its complex architecture, and defiance from fans who refused to let these masterpieces be forgotten. But this is just our list of 8. The Saturn's library is full of hidden gems and unsung heroes. So now I turn it over to you, the Saturn faithful. What is your holy grail RPG that we missed? Was it the tactical depth of Wackenroder? The pre-vanillaware charm of Princess Crown? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into gaming history and want to see more forgotten legends brought back into the light, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support lets us know you want more stories like this. Thanks for watching.